because there's yet another wedding going on, because people just insist on getting married. I yet again can't make any noise, which is quite annoying. I thought today I would do some quieter stuff. The rear subframe needs stripping down, and I'm going to overhaul everything on it. I probably won't do the arm bearings because, although the arms look horrific, I did do them not long ago, mileage wise anyway. But that said, we'll have a play with them. If they need doing, then I'll do them. So anyway, this is a BX rear subframe. They're all much of a muchness. The only major difference for this one over a diesel or whatever would be the addition of a couple of brackets, so that houses or mounts the fuel pump and filter, and that whole assembly lives in a rubber block that's clipped to these with a stupid rubber bloody thing that tends to break. The other thing, of course, is the fuel damper. I won't be putting, I mean, this one's been disconnected for a long time. You can see how completely buggered that is, so I'm going to remove that. I've run it without one for a very long time now. I've not had a problem with it. So I'm going to bin that, and I'll cut that bracket off because it doesn't need to be there. I have brand new brake curlies in steel, which I could make them out of cunifer, but or cupra nickel, if you want to call it. But you know, I have brand new steelies, so I may as well use them. All of these suspension pipes I will replace with cupra nickel. And again, I mean, this pipe looks okay, but whereas in the clip there and just beyond, it is getting a bit on the pickled side of rusty. So probably not a bad thing. The rear suspension cylinders were brand new, genuine brand new Citroen thingies, but that was 20-something years ago, so they're not brand new anymore. We'll see how bad they look when I remove them. I did plan ahead with this, so I've undone the spheres before I removed the subframe from the car. Although you can, and if you've got a subframe on the floor and you want to get the sphere off to get the cylinder out, you can undo them. You just need to wedge something quite hefty down the hole, so it's on the inside of the union, and then you can usually knock them off. I've never had one yet that I've not been able to knock off. But anyway, so I think what I will do, to lessen the weight before I get too involved with any of this, is to remove the suspension arms and roll bar associated linkage that goes with roll bar, height corrector that I will overhaul before it goes back on, because this one leaks internally. Indeed, actually, if you can, if you squeeze the end, it's a bit knackered, so I've got a kit for it. I will overhaul that, since I don't think you can buy them anymore. I've got new back plates, but these bolts, I have to be a bit careful because I don't want to damage the ABS wire. That would be bad. So anyway, let's flip it over so we can see what we're doing. Oh, I think the only other thing of note worth mentioning maybe is the so the returns, or the return line from the suspension cylinders. This should be that little Y piece that has a habit of fracturing. I've got through 3 on this car, which is why I replaced it with a airline press fitting T-piece, which works an absolute treat. Never had a problem with it. That said, I'll put that back on now and it will leak probably. But anyway, let's just commence stripping. Oh, in other news, before I get too involved, so the near side front bush, I think it's fair to say, has lost its newness. I think it's definitely been a bush too long. This bracket obviously is the bracket that holds the 4 front and rear hydraulic pipes. That's not going back on. I'll probably make a new bracket, unless I might have a better one floating around. I can't remember now, but anyway, so yeah, we'll flip it over and take it to bits. Right, so bearing in mind that the subframe is now upside down, which means that the suspension is essentially, if it was the correct way up, the car would be sat on the floor. It's all the way up, if you will, but the car would be all the way down. Someone's moving a leg in National. So the bump stop for the suspension on full height is just a press fit in. That didn't fall out, I've already removed it. It's just pressed in the old. So they just pull out. This one's not in the best of health, but I don't think you can get them anymore. I've certainly not been able to find any. So anyway, that will have to do another turn unless I can find some better second-hand ones. So ideally it could do with being that way. So that would be the suspension hanging essentially with the car all the way up, which makes it slightly easier to get to everything you need to remove. So what I will do, if it will go up high enough, or it might. Yeah, there we go, that'll do. So that then gives us access to the 2 bolts on the anti-roll bar clamp. 16 valves are different to every other BX in that every other BX has a plate that sits over the roll bar that locks it to the arm, whereas 16 valves have a splined end that goes into the cap that bolts directly to the arm, so it's not a separate piece. They do that because of the immense cornering forces that these cars have over any other BX, because if you chuck one of these around the corner hard enough, you can make the world rotate backwards. If you're doing arm bearings on a BX with ABS, it is always a better plan to undo that plug under the back seat and feed the wiring loom through and take the ABS sensor out with the arm, because the likelihood is, well, you'd be the luckiest son of a bitch on earth if you could get the sensor out the arm without destroying it, because they corrode in solid. So I'm leaving them on. I'm fairly confident the other one will come out because I've not long replaced it, but I'm not taking that chance. They can stay on the arm. So the first thing I shall do is remove the R clip that locates the piston, or rod, well, the push rod from the cylinder to the arm. Now these can stick. Mine won't be stuck because I lubricate the hell out of them, and that then comes off and you can just pull the arm out, job done. I always put a load of copper slip on these, and indeed on the end of the push rod where it goes into the arm, because if you do want to take it apart again, you can, as opposed to, I've had these before where I've had to drill the bloody these clips out through the hole because they've corroded in their solid, and they ain't a lot of fun trying to drill them out. So always best avoided. So yeah, lots and lots of copper slip, everyone's a winner. The pipe here, which does go to the suspension. Oh, I've just broken that. See, this is the trouble with really old plastic. I think I have some spare ones, so it's not the end of the world. But so this one that the R-clip is attached to is the breather from the suspension cylinder gaiter. The gaiter on this car is shagged, both of them are, that's fine, I have new ones. But yeah, this is the breather, and it just tucks into the subframe tube. If you get lots of LHM coming out of that, then you've got issues. You really shouldn't have lots of LHM coming out of that. I'll leave that there for the time being. And then I need to get some tools, because I'm not very prepared, am I? But anyway, so there's two 13mm bolts that hold the anti-roll bar to the arm. They need to come off, and then there's, I think they're 21mm. I can't actually remember. I'll find out in a second. But the big bolt also needs to come out, and then we I have to take the brake pipe off as well. Normally, if I'm doing arm bearings on these, I would undo the two 17 bolts that hold the caliper to the arm and just swing it out the way, hook it up out the way. But I'm replacing the pipes anyway. I'm overhauling the calipers, so I'm just going to undo it at the caliper end and leave the pipe where it is at the moment, because it doesn't really matter. Ooh, I'll get that off actually. There we go. Ooh. The bolt is, oh dear, yeah. The bolt's a bit stuck, probably. Yeah, it's all a bit rusty in there, man. This is all a bit rusty, but anyway, there's your two special bolts. I say special, they're bolts, but they're that one's quite rusty. Probably no bad thing that this is all coming apart, really. Then we can make it all better. Ooh, I can't even get on that one. Still very much stuck to the. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I might at this point show you. Well, sort of. Hang on. Come hither. So, on the non-16 valve cars, the bracketry is much the same. So there's a bracket here that the brake pipe is clamped to, and that bracket is clamped under the back bit of the anti-roll bar. I mean, you'll notice it's easy enough to see anyway, but you know, it's something to bear in mind that there is a bracket there with the pipe attached to it. Just be a bit careful that you don't wreck it. So there we go. I'll clip out. That is the little push rod there is out of the arm. Again, all of this is occurring essentially upside down, so if you want to see it in the orientation, it would be if it was in the car, then turn your monitor upside down. Would be the only way I can suggest doing that. So the only thing now holding the arm to the subframe is well, it's not holding it to it, but the brake pipe is still attached. So we'll whip that off, and then we've got the big bolt, and we'll pop that out, and then lift. I say lift, I mean essentially you drop the arm, but obviously I'm lifting it because it's upside down, but yeah, you drop the arm down so that rotates around and comes through this big old ear, and you can slide the whole thing out, which I shall show you in a moment. Oh dear. Okay, that might be an issue. That does not want to undo. Now, there are ways around this. One is cut the top of the pipe off and use a six-sided socket on it. That nearly always works. Again, I can do that because I'm not reusing this pipe. So, that said, equally, if I'm going to cut the pipe, which I will do, then it's kind of, I may as well leave that in there for now because it might stop some shit getting into the caliper whilst it's all in bits. So, a pair of side cutters. And cut the bugger off. The pipe's going to a little plastic clip on top of the arm. They will just pull out of said. Should just pull out of said. This is honestly a lot easier with it the right way up and when it's attached to the car. I promise you. There you go. Right, so that's the pipe is no longer attached. It is now broken. This is an X-pipe, which is no good. So, big bolt. One nut. Always retrieve the washer. There you go. One nut washer. And one bolt, and then your arm, you were, whilst being very careful with the ABS and lead, if you rotate said arm, yeah, and the suspension arm, that then leaves you with the the cylinder, which is now relatively free floating. Do you know, even though I'm not smoking 6.5 weeks now, God, I'm still dying. So, given that I've currently got the subframe sat on the spheres, sort of, maybe it's not, I don't know what it's sat on actually, but anyway, what I might do is do the same job on the other side, pull that arm off, which makes the whole thing a lot lighter, and then spin it over the other way again, and then remove the cylinders, so because I can rest the subframe on the stands rather than on the bits I'm trying to remove. So I'm not really sure this helps much, but again, this essentially is having the suspension hanging or the car as high as it would go. We're upside down, so it's back the front. But anyway, this clip, also, oh yeah, even though it's been copper slipped, it's still got corrosion on it, and it's been longer since this one's been out. Being the offside, it tends to last a bit better, so it has actually managed to stick itself in the arm. So to fix that, I should be using some tools. What I might do again is chuck an axle stand, if it will go up. I'll go up just enough. So I'm not worried about damaging the boot. There you go, because I'm replacing it. Okay, so that's that off. Lovely. Happy days. That dangle. Again, same with the old. I suppose it's a movement limiting. I don't know, whatever it is, bump stop thing. Just presses in. That's that gone. Anti-roll bar is now free floating essentially, apart from it being attached to the clamp for the height control. We'll deal with that in a moment. That is now off, so same as before, making sure that the ABS lead is not going to get damaged. Let's cut that pipe off, and I say cut the pipe off. I might have a go at undoing it. I mean, I'm probably not going to use any of these again anyway, ever, but if you can avoid breaking things, it's always better to avoid breaking them, isn't it? Method as before. That pipe did not want to undo, so I cut it, and it turns out that actually probably no bad thing, because it was quite rusty at the union in there, so that wouldn't have flown again anyway. So what have I done? There it is. So we'll do this across, yeah, I have to be a little bit careful with this side, because it's going to come up rather than go down, so I can't use the floor as a lever. Yeah. Hopefully it's short enough bursts for them to not get pissy next door. So it's been a while since this one's been out, but I appear to have oiled the bolt. So the bolt also appears to be stuck in the arm, which is... that's fine. That's all fine. Okay, so hanging off, no problem. Over we go. And out we pop that. God, that is rusty. Height corrector will need to come off. That is a very tired height corrector. If you switch this car off, well, when it was in one piece, you can actually hear the fluid escaping past the seals on the piston, and it would sink as you watched it because of this. So these are quite clever. Well, they're not. They're very simple, but they're quite clever. the rear height corrector on this not only corrects the height at the back, but also essentially using fluid transfer also alters how much the rear brakes apply or do not. And yes, I am having to drink Abbott ale for reasons. Thank you, John. Usually on boring cars, you have, well, certainly older boring cars, not so much new boring cars with shit suspension, because it's all done with electronics. But you used to have a brake compensator valve, which would be attached to the suspension system. So the more weight you put in the car, obviously the back end would sort of drop as you put more weight in it, and that would open a valve that would allow more fluid to pass to the rear brakes. And if you take the weight out the car and it came up, it would pass less fluid to the rear brakes, and therefore it compensated for the weight in the vehicle to keep the brake balance about right. This is a much more clever system. And obviously that sort of system with a brake compensator valve would be completely pointless on a hydraulic Citroen, because regardless of how much weight you have or have not got in the car, the ride height remains exactly the same, so the compensator valve will never do anything. So it uses essentially a signal from the rear suspension that goes to the brakes, and the more weight that you have in the car, obviously the more hydraulic pressure is required to lift the car to its set height, and that is then what controls how much the rear brakes are applied. Currently the rear brakes won't do a lot on this because they're over there, not on there, and that isn't in there. This is the rod with a little clamp there that clamps to the anti-roll bar. That goes up to the height corrector here. So that essentially is what tells the hydraulic system or the height corrector how high or low the car is. But I'll have to set all of that shit up anyway. So all of that will be coming off because I want to clean all of this up, derustificate it, and paint it. And remarkably, I thought the bush was all right. It isn't. That's okay. I think I have more. Dad made some a while ago, so I'm pretty sure I've got more. Because if you've got a load of slop in that bush like that, actually, yeah, there's quite a lot of slop in that, because very little movement on this equates to quite a large amount of difference in the height. It really doesn't move a lot. You haven't got to move that a lot at all to make a massive difference to how the car's riding. Shitloads of slop in that is bad, so I will fix that too. To get the cylinder out, you obviously need to take the pipe off. Invariably, that pipe is an original pipe, so that is from February 1990. Hence, actually, I think it's done alright for itself. It hasn't exploded, and it doesn't look all that bad. But although I've replaced this cylinder, again, that was 20 years ago, I did not replace the pipe because the pipe looked fine. The car wasn't very old at the time. It was like 12 or 13 years old. But there's a lot of crustiness in here, and I suspect, there's a Land Rover turned up now, that the chances of that union undoing are about the same as being able to take a shit in the King's man bag. That's not going to happen. That union has to come out to get the cylinder out, because the cylinder has to go forward and then rotate and go through a gap in the plate. I did have a plate. Oh, a plate. The cylinder goes forward through that gap. If you've got the union on it, it can't go through that gap, so it has to come off. Rather than mushing it completely, by far the safest approach is to chop it off, put a six-sided socket on it. Just save yourself a lot of aggravation. At least I would if I could find my side cutters. So I am going to cut that off. Farewell, young pipe. And I'm going to try and extract it from the plastic clip without breaking the plastic clip, which I have managed. That is a bonus. I do have a couple of spare ones. I'm going to need one for that side because that side's already broken. So now I need a 6-sided socket of the 8mm persuasion. That is, yes, it's corroded away so badly. That is quite slack. However, hopefully, oh dear, oh, this is, no, even that ain't gonna do it. That's a ball ache. I wonder if I can hammer a 7 onto it. Oh, sort of. Of course, it's not helped with it being a steel union and an aluminium cylinder. That looks pretty bloody manky. I am going to have to twat the living hell out of that, but that's okay. I can do that later. That is now free. So, at that point, I can remove my sphere, which I prepared earlier. That's one of these new spheres, IFHS spheres as well. Of course, I didn't pull the bloody. I need to remove the old the breather pipe and the return pipe. Definitely helps. There you go. Right, now, all things being equal, there's also a spring. Let me do that a bit. So this spring that sits like yonder, and that bit actually clamps this plate up into the subframe. But that spring sits behind the little stub on the union, so you need to lift that spring up out the way to get it to go forward. Otherwise it won't. He said pushing it off the bloody axle stand. Oh dear. That is marginally corroded. Very corroded. Okay, so one very crusty looking cylinder with a lot of corrosion on it. I'm going to have to clean that up quite carefully and see how bad that is. Hopefully it is savable, because I don't have any more and they're getting hard to come by. Getting very hard to come by. There's a lot of crud in here. Lots of crud. Let's see if this way, but there we go. Yeah, that's I have new springs, I don't have new caps, but it's I'm pretty sure I've got better ones than that. That's a bit ugly looking. But yeah, that's a lot of ingrained shit. Of course, these do tend to pick up a load of road muck in here, and there's nowhere for it to go. I did on the other car bang a couple of holes up through the bottom just to let water and stuff out, so it didn't collect around the cylinder. Haven't done that on this one. I probably will before it goes back in. Method as per t'other side. I cut the pipe. That was not going to undo. I don't know if it will focus, even if you can see it, but that is it's not going to. But anyway, the corrosion on the thread is bad. Happily, the union hadn't corroded away quite as badly on the near side, so I did manage to undo it with an 8mm 6-sided socket, unlike that one, which That's not going to focus, but anyway, that one shagged. So they will not be doing another turn. However, so we'll do the same again and remove the breather and the return. Oh God, if it will come out. There you go. So that is that off. We'll whip the sphere off. Should probably, yeah. Ooh. Oh, there's quite a lot of fluid in that. Okay. Oh. There's also it's actual stones and shit in here. That's bad. That is really bad. Anyway, I don't know if you will be able to see up the hole. Probably not. But same again, we're going to move the spring clip so that will pop through the hole. And then out it pops. Hello.
Oh, that's a quick one.
Yeah.
How often? Tim's got an upright hotel.
Yeah.
How often do you set the tablets on? I know
Every week. Every time you start the bloody thing. Sorry about that. That was an entertaining visit from a man with a Land Rover, who apparently is going to subscribe. So, hello, Harry. So this is the inside of a fuel damper, and it's just, I mean, literally a diaphragm in there with a spring behind it, but it's a bit crap, so that bracket can go, because I will not be refitting it. The offside bush isn't quite as bad, but obviously I'll be replacing that anyway. There you go, on 16 valve anti-roll bar with the splined ends. So much cooler in every way, which is why every BX that we run have 16 valve roll bars. Even though only one of them is a 16 valve. The music selection next door at the wedding has been awesome. We've had Wigfield, lovely Sanny. We've had some other shit as well, but you know, for a wedding year, the music's been alright. Certainly better than the music the other week when we had Teenage Dirtbag. Just don't get me wrong, great song, but a strange one for a wedding. Unless they were teenage dirtbags getting married. That really does not want to come out of there, but it's going to have to come out of there, whether it likes it or not. I mean, it doesn't matter, I'm replacing the pipe, but it'd be nice to be able to get that out. That's pretty well fucking wedged. Oh well. I suppose it matters overly. Again, I'm replacing all of these pipes. We'll leave that as an assembly, and I'll find a bag to stick the light corrector in just to stop it getting too shitty. And then there's tens, isn't it, I think? Pretty sure they're tens. Very grubby tens. See how rotten the pipe is under the bracket. Probably. Well, actually, not too bad. Not too bad at all. Oh, I think we're into George Michael, or Wham, or one or the other. Well, considering how crusty that looked, that came off quite well. They usually corrode quite badly, the pipes underneath these brackets, but to be honest, these ain't bad. I've certainly seen worse. Bit of grit on it, but that really isn't too bad at all. Oh, well, okay, well that's actually fallen off, so that's quite helpful. Feed that through, and that's that off. It has gotten very late. I was chatting to a couple of guys for a while. There's not a lot left. There's only, the little plastic brackets, and an exhaust rubber, which is probably knackered anyway. Yeah. So I don't think we need that anymore. So I think I'll leave that there and come back to it tomorrow. Well, I should be able to clean this up and see how bleak it looks. This side is quite a lot crustier than the near side. I think mainly because when the fuel damper failed, it poured a lot of petrol very quickly all over it and took all the paint off. So I don't think that helped. But anyway, we'll clean it up and see how bad it is. But that's a job for tomorrow. I think this has probably been a long enough, suitably boring video already. So I think we'll leave this one here and then come back and try and make a more interesting one next time. So thanks for watching.